When we talk Google Docs, Gmail, Drive, Calendar, Meet, Sheets, Slides, even some forms of Gemini, it can all be used without paying anything every single month. So what exactly are you buying when you subscribe to Google Workspace? That's the question that we're going to answer today. This is GBRLIFE Reviews, where I test the tools, apps, and, well, all that, so you don't have to. And today, I'm looking at Google Workspace, the pros, the cons, and if it's worth it. Yes, the pricing as well. So let's get straight into it, starting with the pros. First pro, it has recommendations. Yeah, so how do you get to Google Workspace? Google Workspace is essentially this right here. If you were to select that on your Gmail, you're going to find Workspace. But it's not going to look anything that's different for you when you're using something like this and you don't pay for anything, because essentially what you're looking at is everything that Google offers. And when you go through here, you see a whole lot, but the reality is there's so much more. If you go over to their actual Workspace marketplace, you can actually find a ton more that they work with and that you can actually add to your workspace. So immediately going directly into it, your pros, it's super familiar because you know this already. The other thing though is that collaboration is excellent because they're working with pretty much everybody and you can add more. There's your featured partners. Again, there's a ton. And then if you start going through here, I'm not naming any other workspace apps, but I will say that there's another one that's very well known and it does work well together, except for when it doesn't. Like, I don't know, Excel, Word, that place. So not to say that I don't like that other workspace option, but in this case, when you think Google, deep down, you know, if you're going to go between Gmail and you're going to go over to Docs or Sheets or Slides or even to Gemini, or even let's go to something random like Sites or Keep, Translate, Photos, any of this, you actually know it's going to work together, and they made it even more seamless. How? They created Studio, and with Studio, you can make everything work even better. So essentially what this is where you would use the Google tools, and it will help kind of use Gemini with it, but telling you how to make that flow come together. So essentially take Zapier or Make and combine that with an AI tool that's built within it. So it's not working with another tool. No, it's in the actual tool, which would mean that essentially if I'm saying right here, notify me about emails from key people, it's going to go through your Gmail, working with Google itself, working with Gemini, and then it's going to go through your chats, and then it's going to tell you exactly those people who have contacted you and make sure that you have been notified. You can also get your daily summary of unread emails. Or really, there's a whole lot that you can do within this alone, and that's not all it offers. You also have Gemini Notebook, which was previously called, I think it's just called Google Notebook or something along those lines. I can't remember. I did do a review on it, so you can check that out next. Either way, right here, you have that option of using an AI notebook that's going to allow you to search through the entire web and grab all of your sources and everything you would need to study, and then bring it together and allow you to create a quiz or infographic or flashcards or data table or mind map all with it. And a lot of students love this. Why? Because it essentially helps you do all that research for you to help you study. So that's just another one of the small things that Workspace offers. Then you also have things like forms. So now let's go to the business side of this. You have the professionalism here because, yeah, you get the whole Google Suite side of it on your email side. Instead of saying, hey, contact me at gbrlife@google.com or at gmail.com, I'm instead going to say, hey, contact me at caitlin@gbrlife.com. So that's there. But the other thing you can do is still utilize the exact same brand that you have and use something like Forms. That's just, again, one of the other things that they offer. So you're going to go through these forms and be able to decide which one you actually want to use. And you can do that with your ownership, with your branding through that by simply adding that in there. So event feedback or an order form or a job application or time off request. This can all be done through your workspace with anybody that you happen to employ, all because they have access to the exact same workspace, yet in their own version of it, which means you're able to make this as large or as small as you actually want it to be. So then we talk about Google Meet, because that's something that a lot of people love to use, even without realizing that they're using it. When you're contacting somebody via Android, sometimes you're using the actual video from the phone itself, or a lot of times you're going through and using Google Meet. It's fantastic, not only how you can do that, but that you can actually set up meetings and send links that you can share just to be able to use this. Now, there's so much more that I wouldn't even really be able to cover in this review alone, but you can see how much it has to offer. This scales very quick, and in no point is this becoming complicated. Why? Because all I have to do is use something like Gemini and ask about it, because that's part of Workspace as well. Or I can discover more with Studio, or I just select over here and kind of look for whatever I'm looking for, including looking for more from the workspace. But this isn't all sunshine and rainbows, because yes, it has all of these different things, but a lot of this is already free. You can go into all of these different things without paying a dime, right? And then if you add more users to this, the price is going to add up. Yes, you have access to everything for free, but if you want to pay for this, every single person that you add to your team costs money. And if you were to go into something like your admin console or really a lot of these other tools, they also feel like separate projects all together. So if I'm going to Forms, that's simple and easy. But if I'm using something like Notebook, it's its own entity, which means I feel like I have to learn this in itself, even though I'm just trying to use the workspace that you gave me, including all these things. So each thing is its own product, which can feel like a lot. And none of this is giving you a full project management platform. That's not a bad thing, but you're not going to stay only in this atmosphere. You're still going to end up needing something else as a business or as a person. If you are trying to stay organized or you're trying to do this as your one-stop shop, you may end up needing something else unless you use very basic lists and you end up going into something like Keep. And then file organization. Yeah, it's really great, but then it's also not. It's not like I can go over here on the Notebook side and start looking through all of my files that may be in something else. Maybe it's in Wallet. Maybe it's within Gmail. I can't go into Notebook and ask for things that are in Gmail. Maybe I can go to Gemini though. And then when you go into the actual plans, again, a lot of this is already free when you're looking at it. So then it starts to feel a little complicated at what you're actually paying for. And since I keep talking about that, let's discuss the pricing. And what is the cost of this? What is the whole idea behind paying for something that you can technically use for free? Because you have limitations. That is the difference. So you can go and use everything for free. That's true. You can even go over to all of those tools and see everything that it has to offer. But in some cases, it's going to actually stop you right at the door and say, well, you didn't pay for this. So you can look at it, but you can't use it. And in other cases, they're going to say, yeah, you can use it one whole time, maybe two, a month, but you can't really use it as an ongoing thing. Gemini has that the most. And if you start to look over here, you start to understand even more of why it costs money. For $7, you get all the things you're going to get for free, but also 30 gigabytes, your custom business email, Gemini Assistant, chat with AI, video meetings, up to 100 participants, and you'll have security and management controls. But that's all you get, which means some of the other options I was looking at, you can look at, but you can't actually use. Now, if you notice over here, where's Notebook? Aha! But then you can go over to Standard. Standard's going to give you 2 terabytes, which is pretty good. Then you also get your custom business email. You also get Gemini AI Assistant within all of those tools, not all of them, but a whole lot of them, in addition to what you're already using Gemini for. So I can go over to Gmail and I can use Gemini right inside there in almost the same way that I would be using Studio. And some ways that's better because I'm looking at the item in front of me, so it's very quick and easy to do that. And then you have your Gemini Notebook. You're paying to use it and use those Notebook different options, pages, however you want to call it, because you're paying for it through Standard for that $14 a month. And then for your video meetings, you get 150 participants. Your appointments you can actually have a booking page for Google Meet, and you can do e-signatures with docs, PDFs, and actually have a Workspace migrate tool for data migration, which is nice, bringing everything all into one spot. And then it gets even better when you go over to your $22 a month, and you're essentially going to do 5 terabytes a month, and then a whole lot more security and things like that with up to 500 participants in your video meetings. Enterprise, good luck to you, because I don't even know, because that's insane. But this is all annual. If you don't want to pay annually and you want to pay a month, this goes over to $840, $1680, and $2640. And that is why there's cost behind this. Because yes, there's the option to use all this for free, but not everything and not without limitations. Which brings us into the biggest question of all. Is it even worth that? Well, if all you need is a place to write documents and store a modest number of files, probably not. A free Google account is going to get you that. But if you're a real business through Google and you want your domain attached to your email, or you need your own company files and you want to collaborate with other people or record meetings and have certain types of access with the people that may work for your company, this is actually a really good idea. But if you're a solo owner like myself, this could feel like a great idea, but it could also create a little bit of extra cost. On the other hand, it can also give you a really nice professional boundary around the business. So it really just depends on how you want to utilize Google. Because the idea here is that you're inside its whole domain. And if you want to step outside of that domain, that's where it costs you money. And that's where it can start to get really expensive because you're already paying for this. So if it can't do everything that you're looking for, it may not be the option for you. But if it can, it may be the best $1680 that you've ever spent a month. And that is the reason, when it comes to the GBRLIFE rating, I'm giving Google Workspace a 4 out of 5. Google Workspace is not difficult to recommend because it has some seriously awesome core products. Because they're familiar, they're mature, and they're genuinely good at collaboration. Honestly, if you go from one into the other, it really does work very well together, especially now that Gemini has been added. And in this case, though, I would say that the harder question is whether the paid features are actually valuable enough for the way that you actually work. And for small businesses, depending on how small you are, it may not be worth it yet. It may be something that you kind of look into, know it exists, and when you feel ready, you go for it. Have you ever used Google Workspace for your business or just in general, just because you were interested in using it to make your life easier? Or are the free Google apps enough for you? Well, let me know that in the comments. But that is it for this week's review. And if you want more, you can check out the companion blog on GBRLIFE.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And remember, with everything on GBRLIFE.com and my fabulous Mama Koala clothing line, you don't have to be without GBRLIFE in your life. Now let's head into the next review. It should show up here, really, right here. Do you see it? Is it right there? Okay, well, go ahead and click on it because I think this is one that you're gonna really like. Okay, Google says you'll like it. Okay, no. YouTube says you'll like it, which is Google, right? So let's go into this one next.
Sounds good.